Still working stuff out. So, right, I think we are live. So, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another one of our monthly installments where we get our group experts to come on, discuss topics, answer any questions, and pretty much be free at hands for all of you that might be in need or might just want to jump in for a quick nosy for 5 minutes. Obviously, the goal for this is to make sure that you guys are getting the correct help, the correct advice, and the correct guidance to allow you to support your health and fitness journey, which will kind of hopefully grow on, and you'll never ever forget these moments that we share with you. Without further ado, just the last kind of final check. So if you wanted to contribute and comment, ask questions, make sure you click the link with the StreamYard link that's on this post. So then, and accept the privacy details. That will then allow us to kind of see who is commenting and not me have to chase up on my phone to then come back here. For those of you that don't know, Chris Marsh is our kind of mental health expert. So he'll be kind of leading in with some psychology kind of narratives. And Nory is our nutritionist expert as well. So she'll be delving in some topics around nutrition. So if you've got any questions, you don't want to ask them live, then do drop me or these guys personally, or if you want to have a chat with them after, then that's all yours. So let's go with Nory first. Kind of introduce yourself, and for the people that might be logging on that don't know who you are, and then we'll come to Chris after.
Don't know me? What? Okay, so believe it or not, my name is Nory, and I'm a holistic health and nutrition coach, and I'm basically kind of specializing in helping women overcome and recover from disordered eating habits and sort of negative and toxic body image. And I help them kind of recover and restore a healthy relationship with food. This is like shortly what I deal with.
There you go. And yourself, Chris?
So I'm Chris. I'm a hypnotherapist, analytical hypnotherapist and mindset coach. So I generally help people recover from past trauma in a nutshell. So that's reframing the past traumas that create the debilitating symptoms we struggle with. So stress, anxiety, depression, addictions, fears, phobias. But in this context, probably 90% of the clients I work with have some kind of form of emotional eating. So it's a big part of what I do as well, is helping people recover from food addictions, basically, where they're using food as a comfort, as emotional support.
Amazing. Look at that. Got season pros here already, haven't we? So just to call through. So if you can hear us properly before we start, just give us a thumbs up, give us a wave. Just let us know that you're there and that you can hear us all right. Because the first time I think we've got 3 on the go. So we should do it from there. So just some highlights and topics of which we're going to cover within this. Okay, they're going to delve into firstly what is emotional eating, maybe some red flags to look out for maybe yourself, family, or friends, then some management strategies, and then finally how to recover and live a life of maybe more graceful emotional eating rather than maybe negatives. But I'll just be here kind of mediating, maybe dropping some questions in, so make sure you keep asking as we go along. And then from there, I will shut up and be quiet, and I'll let you take over.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So me and Chris, we thought about, just kind of understand the emotional eating, what it is, and whether it is a bad thing or it might be not even a bad thing. And we both kind of came to the conclusion that emotional eating, we all do it, believe it or not. And I think the perceived reality at the moment about emotional eating is it has to be some sort of a very extreme kind of image of emotional eating, very extreme and very, very strong and intense emotion going around food and around, in life in general. But it might be that way because we all actually eat out of emotions. And we don't talk about just negative emotions. I don't know you, Chris, but I do eat because I'm happy. When I celebrate.
Absolutely. I mean, we all reward ourselves with food when we feel down, but it's often forgotten about that we reward ourselves positively with food as well. We celebrate with food, right? And it's very much a cultural thing, isn't it? Probably more so Mediterranean-wise than it is in this country. But yeah, we celebrate with food. We punish ourselves with food. We make ourselves feel better with food. And these are all types of emotional eating. So I guess in a nutshell, for me, emotional eating is trying to enhance or change our mood with food. For me. I don't know what your kind of thought.
Emotional eating it can be literally anything from a micro emotion to a massive intense emotion, really, because it can something threw me off the day, and then something happened, and the easiest way for me sometimes to calm myself down before I actually get back into my normal life, is just to grab something to eat. And that is I believe we have to kind of normalize the fact that emotional eating is happening and it is normal in everyone's life, and we should definitely stop demonizing emotional eating. Really, it's just a normal part of our lives. And there are cases when emotional eating goes a little bit out of hand, and we don't know anything else about emotions, in general. We just know that this works for us for a couple of minutes, and this is what we do.
Yeah. And like you said, there's the extremities of the scale, isn't there? So, I deal with the extremes as well. So full-on eating disorders, but they all start somewhere, right? They all start at a root. And whether it's bulimia or it's anorexia, they all start with some kind of starting point, which then turns into a habit, which then turns into a dependency, which then can become out of control. And the subconscious is like a radar; it's always listening, right? So, how and why do we end up with emotional eating? Is the subconscious manages our fight or flight responses, right? So, whenever we get into emotional distress, the subconscious looks for ways to make you feel better in that situation. So that's how it creates faulty programs.
And it's a very quick, isn't it? It has to be like super quick. Your brain literally is responsible, like as quick, as safe, and as less risk as possible. In that
absolutely, it's about survival, right? It's a survival mechanism. But how we end up with dependencies like food, or it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be anything really. The subconscious makes attachments. So if you feel depressed, if you feel anxious, if you feel nervous, and you have something to eat, and it makes you feel a little bit better, then the subconscious makes that link and says, right, hang on, that makes Chris feel better. When he feels this emotion, having that Mars bar, that Snickers, that cake, that biscuit, that pie, that pie and a sandwich, whatever it is, it learns, right? And then what it does, it adds more power to that. So every time then you hit that same emotional response, it's going to start triggering you to say, actually, Chris, remember you felt better when you had that Mars bar, when you felt this emotion last time. Go and have that Mars bar again. And because the more it happens, the more weight it adds to it, right? And then suddenly that's where we get into dependencies, that we can get out of control if those emotions become too strong. But the root of emotional eating starts when we're babies. What's the first thing we do when a baby cries? We just assume it's probably hungry, so we feed it, right? And also the baby can't communicate. So that's where emotional eating starts. That's why I say all of my clients have some form of emotional eating.
Yeah. I love when you said, it's not even it's a behavior, isn't it? It's kind of like a learned behavior that we learned this, that this situation, it happens, it triggers something in my mind, or it triggers a feeling, and then that feeling triggers something in my mind. I create the narrative around that feeling, and then my brain wants me to react as quickly as possible in a safest possible way. And then that it is. So when we talk about, I think, emotional eating, it's not even about food, really. It's about how we react in situations and what we learned in the situation give us, and the circumstances give us as a feeling. And then I think emotional eating is mainly because maybe we are not really willing to look at or accept the feeling, and then emotional eating help us avoid it or numb that feeling, really.
Absolutely. I mean, endorphins are like a magic pill, right? Endorphins make everything go away. So exercise is a great way to get rid of stress, right? But
Yep.
food equally triggers those same positive responses, right? So of course, we're going to want more of it. Every time we feel that emotion, we're going to want more of it. And then, like I said before, the brain's the subconscious learning. But the truth is, when we get those negative feelings, we just want to get out as quick as possible. We want to try and bury those feelings. We want to push them under the surface, because we're all brought up, trained like a dog to not deal with our emotions, particularly in Yorkshire. I grew up in Yorkshire, right? So got to be big, strong, get on with it, just carry on. Even the women in my family are all really tough, right? Just get on with it, get on with it. And of course, we're just squashing it under the surface, but we've got to deal with those emotions some way. So that's how we end up finding food. It's how we end up finding alcohol or drugs or anything like that, because we're just trying to get that escape from that reality, a little bit of breathing space from that negative feeling. But like you said, that means we're avoiding dealing with it, right? We'll talk about a little bit more detail later on. But if you just sit in that feeling and try and understand it a little bit more and go, all right, where's this feeling coming from? Where do I feel it in my body? What is that emotion? What words can I associate with it? And just sit and process that for a little bit. You can actually work through it. I mean, not to minimize people's mental health, but obviously you can get to the extremity where you cannot control that emotional response. You cannot control extreme anxiety. But yeah, that's one of the problems I think we have in this country, is people are just trying to brush things under the carpet and find a quick escape from the feelings and emotions. And whether that's food or taking pills or alcohol or something else, it's just that escape from reality.
Any sort of addiction. I think it's worth it here mention, probably, about the, like human, like we have 6 core needs, and probably if you are trying to avoid or escape, or maybe you are lacking something in your life, and this is what food gives you. For example, we have like core needs. For example, you might need significance in your life, but you don't have it, or you keep like running into a kind of a wall, but you want to feel significant in life, but somehow the workplace that you are in, it doesn't give you the feeling of significance. So food can substitute that. You can you maybe lack of connection, like meaningful connection in life. You don't have a good relationship. You are in a bad relationship where people like your partner is not really connecting with you on many levels and not speaking your love language. And food can be really something that replacing that. Or maybe your life is very monotone, it's very sort of boring, and you need variety. And food can give that variety, and or you need just certainty, control, and food pretty much is so much like a control thing, especially when we talk about dieting, and these things like diet can give you very much a boost of control, because you can control how much calories you're going to count, how much calories or grams you're going to eat. That is all about control. And food, again, is just kind of a manifestation on a perceived reality in your head. And I think it's important to look beyond that. What is really happening? What is that in that situation that you experienced? Why you feel out of control? Why are you searching for food for control? What would give you more sense of control in life in that situation if you didn't go for food?
Yes. Yeah, it's a really good point to make. I mean, control is such an important part of emotional eating and diet issues, and even the more extreme disorders, eating disorders. Because food is a way to regain control. I mean, a lot of the responses that our subconscious will have to anxiety and stress is to try and find something that you can control. So that could be cleaning, right? A lot of clients who like.
I love that, by the way. I'm guilty. I'm guilty for that.
A lot of neurodiverse clients I've had. A lot of neurodiverse clients I've had. That's one thing they can control. They can't control emotion management and understand their emotions, but they can do something simple like cleaning, and they'll kind of furiously do something like that. And same with emotional eating, you know, when the rest of your life is out of control, when you can't control the emotions or you can't control the people in your life or the situations, diet is something you can control positively or negatively. And then you know, that can spill out into other things as well. So it can spill into the exercise side of things as well. So yeah, so you can get very much obsessive about diets. You can get very much obsessive about the routine around that, calorie counting. You know, you can get to the point where, you know, you're so obsessive that you can only focus on that thing because that's the only thing you can control in your life, maybe. And again, that can create negative behaviors. But then, you know, it's difficult to maintain that for a long period of time. So then you can kind of trigger you to come out of that control and process and go to the extremity then of like binge eating. But then, of course, you've got those feelings of guilty shame after that. You've broken the routine, you've broken the process. And then, of course, you're just adding to the emotional issues around food by adding guilt and shame to the equation. And then you get that extremity of flipping from one extreme to the other, which I think a lot of people can relate to, of, you know, being able to cope and maintain a diet for a certain period of time. But then you suddenly, something triggers you to then go the opposite.
Life just happens.
Yeah, and it could be life happens. You go to a party, you go to a wedding, it's Christmas, it's a birthday, or it could be as simple as that you've restricted yourself so much for so long, you just can't bear not to have a burger, chocolate, pies,
and then that's
whatever
it.
it is.
And
Right?
the chain reaction starts, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, then you get that situation where it's kind of like, well, I've gone off the wagon now, so I might as well just really go for it. And that could be for a long period of time. It could be a short period of time. You know, it could be like, right, it's Wednesday. I've gone off the wagon. I've had a takeaway. I've had a bottle of wine, but I'll start a diet again next Monday.
Yeah.
Got it, right.
Then
Monday comes around.
true. And I think that's so good that you mentioned. It's basically like our routine. It's a pattern, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think it's important to understand that in order to not even recover, but like kind of prevent this from spiraling, you know, in a massive level and in an intense level, you should start to look at what the pattern looks like for you. So when the trigger happens, what is it that you immediately do? How do you react to it? And what kind of feelings that situation, that circumstance brings up for you?
Yeah.
When you respond to that situation in a certain way, what is that decision offering you? How is that outcome, let's say, comfortable, familiar, and safe for you?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? I think these questions are very important. So in order to kind of break the pattern, we have to go back to the very, very first step of before the pattern starts to spiral. And then this is where we wanted to really look into today.
That's where those kind of feelings start to create those triggers. So, you know, from a physiological perspective, you know, what causes those triggers and changes in behavior is just subconscious mind has basically recorded all of those emotional triggers in the background that happened in the past, a response from trauma. And when we say trauma in that context, it's not necessarily a thing we don't normally associate with that word, because as a child, everything's traumatic, everything's different, right? And teenagers even still. So it's you know, once that trigger is created, it's created behaviors, it's never cancelled. So that's how suddenly you can be doing really great at the diet and something will trigger it, and it could be invisible to your conscious mind because your subconscious works in pictures, sight, sound, smells, right? It's just suddenly trigger, and then you're kind of into coming off the diet, you're into eating emotionally again, you're into comfort eating or whatever it might be. And that's where suddenly like you say, you've got to go, right, hang on, what's caused this change, what's caused this trigger? And so before, it's like you've got to process and think about that emotional change, that emotional trigger, to try and understand it. Yeah.
And then just think about, when was the last time where did you feel this way? When was this again? So let's try to look for a pattern again. You know, maybe if something, someone is rejecting you, rejection for you is like, "Ugh," and that triggers you. And rejection can be like a very minimal rejection. Someone didn't really like your work of art that you worked on for so long, and that felt like a rejection for you. Again, this is like your perception of reality. Maybe the person who is giving you an advice how to improve, that was like a constructive advice, but for you it was a rejection. So we have to look at the narrative, really what's happening into your mind. What is the perception of the reality, of your reality, that triggers this whole chain reaction?
And what actually happens in those triggers, what actually happens in those triggers is, you know, again, the subconscious is always listening like a radar. So it's always trigger, action, response, right? So trigger is, you know, somebody perceived to be criticizing you, giving some feedback that you took the wrong way, or whatever it might be. It could be something as simple as that. It could be something you perceive as a criticism, which actually isn't. It could be some negative feedback at work or from home. But what those comments are doing, they're triggering that emotional response that will go back to some past trauma. So all of those traumas will boil down to common denominators like self-worth, self-love, abandonment, judgment, victim, control, guilt,
connection,
shame,
significance, validation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. And they're all experiences that once that program for judgment has been created, for example, when you feel judged, it's never cancelled. It just gets more weight added to it over the years. So that's how just something that's quite simple can cause then quite a big reaction, because it's just triggering that emotional response. And then, of course, subconscious has learned over the years, right? Food makes you feel better when you feel judged. Right, go and have that nice meal to make yourself feel better. Go and have the chocolate, the whatever it is, right? And of course, you know, when that trigger happens, we don't like the feeling of being judged. We don't like the feeling of being made to feel a victim, right? You don't like the feeling of kind of you know, not having the affirmation we're looking for, or our self-worth being triggered. So our subconscious is going, right, get rid of that feeling, get rid of that feeling. So it's going, right, this makes you feel better, this makes you feel better. So whether it's food, alcohol, even drugs, or exercise, even, right? They're all being triggered. And even smoking, you know, smoking, nicotine is not an addictive drug at all. It's the emotional connections and the habits that get built up. So, and a lot of people realize and understand that, but they don't equate that same pattern with food. It's exactly the same, right? You know, subconscious just learning and building those connections. But it all relates back to emotional triggers. But boiled down to those common denominators, and self-worth is probably the biggest. Self-worth and self-love, they're like the foundations for all the other faulty programs that we have in our subconscious.
It's absolutely.
I mean, I've had lots of clients who, you know, they've yo-yo dieted for many years, but we'll go back to some fairly simple situation from childhood, like just the parents arguing a lot in front of them, and just creates those negative feelings. You know, when you're young, first thing you assume when your parents argue in front of you is like, I've caused that some way. I've been linked to creating this argument in some way, because you can't understand, you can't process, because your conscious mind isn't developed enough. And so that's where these things can start. And then, you know, your parents or your grandparents can add more weight to that, because when you feel a bit rubbish, when you feel a bit sad, or when you've had a fall or whatever, they'll give you something to cheer you up. And it could be a sweet thing, could be a chocolate bar, could be a lolly, right? So again, these situations build up, you know. We go back to what I said earlier on, you know, like culturally, again, food can be a very big part of family culture. Certainly it was for me growing up. You know, I grew up thinking bread had no calories. My granddad always used to say, "Is that Chris had some bread with that?" I'm like, I'm 10, granddad, I'm not working in the pit. You know, it all adds to that weight, right? So you've got this emotional connection with food that starts from some situation, but then all of those different situations, the social situations, the family situations, the cultural situations, the celebrating with food, the commiserating with food, they all just add more and more power to these issues. And the real key thing we want to get people back to is understanding that food is just fuel for your body.
It's just food.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Yeah.
put rubbish fuel in your car, right?
Mm.
If you got a nice Audi, BMW, whatever.
Rory was like, I don't know.
If it's anything under £1 a litre, I'll put anything in there.
Well,
Yeah,
this
definitely.
is the most precious possession we own, our bodies, right?
Mm.
And we've got to treat it with respect to get the most longevity out of it, right? So getting back to that concept that food is just fuel, put the best fuel in your body you can. It doesn't mean that you have to limit everything, right? It's just predominantly put the best fuel you can in, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously restriction then is again which will cause big reactions. If you restrict yourself too much, it can cause other emotional triggers. So
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to take anything away, really, because then it creates like so much fear. It's like if probably the person would feel threatened. Like, imagine if I take away the only thing that the person knows the best about and the safest way to deal with things. I don't want to take that away. As a coach, for me, like, this is not how I deal with things. Like, keep it, but let's work on the possible ways to kind of prevent this to be the only option for you. I'm not saying you can have that option at all. Have it, but let's work on something that could work better.
It's allowing people to have the choices, isn't it?
It's
they choose
believing and knowing the fact that you can choose differently in that situation. And I think this is why coaches and therapists is helping you to understand and explore the ways that you could respond to different situations. You can respond again by reaching out for food. There's nothing wrong with that. But maybe before doing that, let's try to look at what the pattern looks like, what the narrative says, or like keeps telling you in your head that it's perpetuating completely this cycle. Let's just try to access somewhere that narrative, and let's just pause. How would we be able to be more aware or notice about emotional eating? Good question, Nory.
Great question.
Yeah, I think like this is very important. Again, when you feel, this is my way of looking at it, when you feel and when you believe that when you're experiencing something that is upsetting for you, that is stressful for you, that is too sad for you to deal with, and your only way to cope with it is just food, that might be something to look into. When you can't really describe the emotions that you are going through, you just know that something is in there. And the only thing that food can help you in that moment, but as soon as you finish with the food, that thing will come back immediately. Or even worse, the guilt and the shame will come back instead. Plus the other things that they were before.
So it's actually making it worse, right? Yeah, it's adding extra emotional issues.
Like, it's not a sustainable and a long-term thing. It's very much like an immediate response and an immediate solution, but doesn't really solve anything, if it makes sense. Does it answer your question? Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like just recognizing, before you go to the fridge, before you go to McDonald's, before you go for whatever thing that you're going to treat yourself with, is just ask yourself a question: am I genuinely hungry? Right? Am I actually hungry, or is there another reason why I want to reach out for that thing? I mean, I do this little trick with myself is when I feel like I want something like a treat thing, whether it's chocolate or whether it's whatever else treat myself with. Can't think off the top of my head. So I always think to myself, right, if I'm craving this nice thing, let's say it's a burger, am I hungry? Would I eat something plain like a slice of toast with peanut butter on it? Am I hungry enough to eat that? And if the answer is no, I'm like, yeah, I'm eating for emotional reasons. Then I'm not really that hungry. If the boring thing is not an option, sorry, then this burger or whatever it is not the right thing to do. So then that can trigger me to think, right, why am I feeling like this? What is it that's creating this need to emotionally eat? So that's a little tool that I use, a little technique that I use.
Yeah, definitely. To be fair, I would say, like, because I work with people who's struggling with, toxic relationship with food. Like many people, they don't have an idea when they're hungry. Have no clue what hunger that is, especially after a long period of dieting, because just following meal plans,
Yeah, just tuned out with their body
periodically,
signals. Yeah.
and then they got completely detached from their own body and mind and what the body is trying to tell them. And then sometimes hunger, in many cases, is basically like very demonized concept. Hunger can fire a trigger again, that I am not disciplined enough. I shouldn't be hungry. I've just eaten. A lot of other things. Like,
Yeah,
this is a very
interesting.
complex thing. That's why we said, like, we have to look
Yeah.
into, like, really deeply what's going on beyond, because it's not about food. It's about, like, a surface level. There are emotions, but then there is the ramification of emotions as well, because stress can mean, if someone is going for, I don't know, they're having an exam, that's a stress. Someone can like burn a burger, that's a stress, and then Lily or Rory is opening something new, and that's stress, isn't it? But they are so different, like 3 different types of stress. What is it beyond this stress? For example, I am it's stressful, the exam, because I don't believe in myself. I'm going to be good enough. I'm seeking for validation. What if I'm not getting it? What if I don't, if I feel just uncertain again, stress definitely makes me crave carbs. Yes, of course.
That is very
That's the
common.
best thing, because this is like very immediate, isn't it? Carbs just gives you
And,
like,
and there's a
brings,
reason for that. Yeah, there's a reason for
brings
that
the sugar
physiologically.
down. Sugar brings your whole hormone level up. Boom. You love it. Yeah.
Yeah, because stress is draining, tiring, it's exhausting, and
Yeah, but
you're
what
gonna
what is it? What is it beyond the stress? This is what I want to
yeah
do. This is what I always want to get my clients to just try to name those emotions. It's very important, because if we kind of describe every situation as stressful, as stress, any sort of situation, that is going to trigger the same narrative that is going to lead us to emotional eating. But if I say, this is not stress, I'm just afraid of failure, that's a different thing, isn't it, for your mind?
and we're always going to get situational stress, no matter how much work we do on ourselves and how much of a great place we get to. If we didn't have situational stress, we'd be psychopaths, right? We wouldn't have any emotions. So and I think one of the key things is to actually accept that first and foremost as well, that of course we're always going to have stress, we're always going to have some anxious reactions, but it's learning those skills to manage and understand that and process that, rather than looking for coping mechanisms where we're hiding it and burying it under the surface. And Kay's point about stress craving carbs, physiologically your body is looking for that
And
sugar.
it's very normal.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I'm just curious about K. Do I pronounce it right? K. So K, what happens when you give yourself permission to eat carbs in a stressful situation? I'd really love to know that, if it does the job for you. Is the stress going away straight away?
And what do you feel afterwards, actually, is a good question.
So this is very good, because it's okay to have carbs. I mean, who doesn't want a carb? But my question is, like, what happens after? How do you feel after? And then, is it always one specific type of carb? There are a lot of questions in here. No, here we go.
Any cards.
Yeah, absolutely no. Which is it's perfectly fine, but what we are trying to say that maybe if you feel like this reaction is not leading anywhere for you, it's not bringing you to a higher level that you feel better, maybe we could try to look into something what's going beyond, any kind of bread. Yeah. Oh my God, bread. Yeah, yeah. It's then like chocolate spread. Hello. That would be for me, definitely. Yeah. So I think instead, I would like you to, I don't know whether you are critical or judgmental when these things happen to you, but I would like to invite you to be more curious when these things coming up for you, and be more like an observer. Try to zoom out what is really happening, and then be curious, what is it that maybe this is trying to teach me? Where do I have to go with this? Because it's clearly not helping. Even if you want, you can start with the question, how is this serving me? How is this pattern make me feel comfortable? What about what about this pattern that makes me feel safe? And I think this is very important.
How can you manage to improve your relationship with food? Well, this is the money shot, isn't it? This is the bingo question.
You can have another
You're asking for a friend, Rory.
Others extreme, but I would like to raise maybe the sort of just a shift, of a perspective shift. For example, imagine if you could react in a different way, what would it be like? Imagine if instead of reaching out for food in these kind of situation, you are able to stay with your emotions and understand and interpret the reality the way it is, and react in a way that benefits you and others. How might that have changed your decision to eat at that moment? Would it change your decision to eat at that moment? And then if you feel that could work, what would have to shift for this to feel possible? Do you need to let something go off?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, it's about, for me, it's, sometimes you just have to let things flow, right? So, with negative emotions, so, what we're saying is negative emotions are creating this emotional link to food, right? So you've got to let those feelings flow, because if you're then going and reaching for the comfort food, you're kind of trying to push and bury it and move away. So taking those natural endorphin pills to get rid of it, right? But actually you need to let it flow, numbing the pain, whether it's food, alcohol, whatever. It's trapping those emotions inside. We're not dealing with it. So, my key recommendation is don't be afraid to sit in those feelings and just experience it for a bit. Just feel it, process it. But actually just sit and say to yourself, where in my body do I feel this emotion, right? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my chest? Is it in my head? Is it in my throat? Is it somewhere else? And then just ask yourself the questions, what emotions am I feeling? What words come into my mind when I think and I feel about this sensation in my stomach, my chest, my throat, whatever it is? And you'll be amazed what kind of intuitive things come into your mind, right? So, suddenly you might recall an experience at work that day. Oh God, yeah, it was that discussion with Rory really got on my nerves. He really annoyed me. I felt really criticized me.
Rory.
And then you go, well, where does that come from? Why did Rory's reaction make me feel like that? Was it rational? Was it irrational? And again, you can explore that more. You might be even amazed and surprised to suddenly remember something from the past that suddenly comes up and think, oh, hang on, actually, when I think about judgment, when I think about that feeling, I think about when I was young, I always felt judged for doing this thing or doing that thing or doing that. I'm not doing something good enough, or felt criticized, and I felt judged constantly by my mum or my dad or both, or my brother, sister, siblings, whatever it might be, or a teacher at school, right? And suddenly you're kind of linking back, going back to the root causes, right? And then, sit and experience, feel it, and then you'd be amazed how quickly it can actually then just pass. And again, get to that state of flow where it just passes and it goes, and you can let go of that need to find the crutch then. And there's a simple task that you can do, And again, when you're in that emotional reaction, so one of the physical things that happens is when you feel stress or anxiety, fight or flight's triggered, right? So you got adrenaline being released in your body, creates anxiety. Cortisol released in the body. Cortisol blocks your rational thought process purposely, because if you're in real danger, you haven't got time to consciously think about reacting. You've got to do it instinctively, and that's why you get brain fog. That's why you get short-term memory issues when you're constantly stressed or anxious. So just sit, process, experience those feelings, let them travel through, if you like. But if you're really struggling to kind of release it, then there's some other tools you can use. So breathing technique is amazing. So I use a 4-7-8 breathing technique. So breathing deep for 4 seconds, hold that breath for 7, and slowly exhale for 8 seconds, and repeat that breathing pattern. But breathe into wherever in your body you feel that anxiety or that stress. So it could be your chest. So breathe into your chest, it could be stomach. Breathe into your stomach. But then when you breathe it out from that place, and just visualize that negativity coming out with the breath. And that'll just start to release some of this tension, anxiety, the negative feelings, to give you space to kind of process and think about it a little bit more. And you can take that further with visualization as well. So in my work, I get people to visualize the negative feeling in the body and give it a color. So you can give it color blue, the color green, the color black, whatever instinctively comes up. And then we visualize a cloud and blue sky, and we send all of that feeling and that color into the cloud. So you can do this in quiet contemplation. You can do this in meditation, whatever feels comfortable for you. Again, it's a great way just to release some of these feelings, to not need then to find that crutch, to not need to go to the fridge or go for a beer, whatever it might be, and give you the space to actually then be able to think and process stuff without the cloudiness and the noise that the cortisol and adrenaline create in your body as well.
Yeah. I feel like it's something just come up to me, like a lot of people, I believe, would struggle to envision themselves and their life without this.
Yeah,
it's like kind of a persona, isn't it? It's like
it can define you so much.
This is what many people in my practice as well struggle the most. They have no clue who would they be without this.
Yeah, that's it. And you just can't imagine not having those feelings. I mean, I've got a good friend of mine had hypnotherapy for fear of spiders a long time ago before I started working. And his son has the same phobia of spiders, quite strong. So he said to his son, "Oh, Chris does this now. Why don't you go and get your fear of spiders sorted out?" He said, "No, I can't do that because I might want to touch a spider afterwards." So he couldn't imagine not having the fear as projecting his fear forwards, even though rationally he was like, "Yeah, I'll be able to deal with it." But he could not picture not having that phobia, that fear. So he didn't want to actually make the change because of the fear of having had the change, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same in this context. It's like people just don't know what good looks like sometimes, and often, and I've done this in the past, just like almost accepted my situation and accepted that maybe this is just what life is like for me. These people I see who have got perfect ripped bodies and are able to train consistently and never have any kind of relapses or any kind of issues, never any emotional issues. Oh, I can't be that person, right? But just through processing and dealing with my stuff, my shit from the past, obviously I've got to that point where I can make those options, I can control that, I can actually manage my emotions. I don't need to comfort. I love food. I'm a real foodie. I love cooking, I love eating, but I make the choices now, and it's being able to make those choices without any judgment of myself, without any kind of negative feelings one way or the other. So occasionally I'll go, right, I'm gonna have a takeaway, I'm gonna have a curry, I'm gonna let myself go a little bit, but then
that's
wake in the morning and go
get to that level.
yeah. And in my sport's triathlon, so obviously I can eat a lot when I'm training regularly. Sadly, I'm an injured triathlete at the moment, but But yeah, you've got the choices, right? You've got those choices.
I mean, that's important. I think, like, just to explore even the idea. That's why it's very important to ask these questions. What do you think you have to believe in for this to be possible for you?
Yeah.
Like, it's important to ask these questions, like, what do you think you have to shift in your mind? What kind of perspective shift needs to happen within you in order for this to happen?
That's it.
Because it's just exploring mentally, and because if we can't even visualize life without this, what are we doing? It's very impossible after that to go to a stage or go to, like, even a space with you as the therapist, with me, the coach, because we just always hit like a wall. It's important to explore emotions, because there are different layers of emotions. I usually use a wheel of emotions that is really helpful to identify what you might be going through, and then explore the different outcomes, because sometimes people, they didn't even play with the thought that this could end up differently, and they don't even and it's like, oh, so do you mean like I could react differently? Can I be more patient? Can I just stop this? And it's like, wait, and then this is why we have to explore together. What do you think you have to believe in about yourself?
And self-awareness is the biggest starting point to recovery. Absolutely.
Of course. It's just like, start to explore just the idea that might be a different outcome for you about this, and how would you like that outcome to be like for you? What would you like to feel if the outcome is this?
That's inside out thinking rather than outside in. So,
exactly.
Outside in thinking is allowing everybody else, all the other external factors, to influence you rather than actually going from the inside out. And it's like, if somebody is shitty to you at work, then why are they being shitty to you? Is it something you've done, or is it just that person's having a bad day? That person could have had a blazing row with a family member, a partner, or something like that in the morning, and it's just coming out. They could be really struggling with the workload, right? So when you understand the physiology of stress and anxiety, and you have that awareness,
again, it's
suddenly
it's just your perceived reality.
Exactly, perceived reality. So suddenly you'll find that you start to react differently, because instead of thinking this person's been awful to me and I'm going to really react to that, you think, hang on, this person's been awful. What's causing that emotion? They're just being triggered, right? So physiology of the stress reaction. We talk about the amygdala hijack, right? So amygdala hijack is that literally that stress response where your fear process has been triggered. So in that situation where somebody at work has said something, it's triggered the amygdala hijack. So you're suddenly into fight or flight. You can't think rationally, right? Because your cortisol is blocking your rational thought process, and that's why you can never win an argument, all right? First rule of argument, you can never win one, people. So don't even try.
God. Yeah.
Both being emotionally blocked. But change that perception. Before you get to that big emotional reaction, just take a pause and take a breath and go, what is causing this person to be like that with me? Do I need to react to that? Do I need to pour more petrol on that already blazing fire? Or can I react a little bit differently, which might diffuse this a bit better? Yeah.
Or another one, why am I reacting this way? What has triggered within me that I need to work on? Because probably if it's like always the same one, honey, you have to work on that. That's why it's coming up all the time. It's not going to go away. That's why it's coming up, because it has to be that way. Then probably because if it's coming up in a very intense and very frequent and very often way, you're ready to work with it. And then you are ready to dig deeper, which sounds very scary. But this is where all the healing lies. And by answering these questions, I think you as well. And we would like you maybe just to close this session with some advice, I would say. Recommendations.
Somebody said in the chat, I think there was a comment about writing your emotions down. Journaling is a fantastically powerful thing. So, journaling is a way to but was it you, Rory? Journaling is a
No.
way to record over a period of time these emotions, so you can recognize the patterns, right?
Yeah.
So it was Dennis.
Oh, Dennis. Hi, Dennis.
Dennis.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
comment. Yeah,
Dennis.
so journaling is really powerful because then you can see a pattern. You can see the common threads of things, and then you can start to piece together this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, in hypnosis, in the session that I do, the first 4 sessions, that's exactly what we do. We just allow the subconscious to start to go where it needs to go and bring up all of these different events and scenarios. And over a period of time, it's like painting a tree from the branches downwards. We start to understand all the common denominators between these experiences and what they go back to. So self-worth, self-love, victim, judgment, control, abandonment. These are the kind of root causes really that trigger these responses.
Yeah, going back to again the core needs that we all need. You know, either certainty, uncertainty, variety, connection, significance, validation. Can be not just one, a mix of 2 or 3. One is more dominant than the other. I think it's like advice. I don't know, like a general advice that could work for everyone. So,
Yeah, I
okay,
mean,
we create our own stress by our reaction to things. I'm sorry to say
yeah,
that.
absolutely,
Yes.
well, it's not so much we create it, we pour petrol on the fire, right? That's basically, so of course the
But
situations created that stress, so your subconscious reacted to that, so you didn't have any control consciously about the reaction, but then you can manage it from that point. You don't need to then escalate that. You can kind of recognize, hang on, something has triggered me. It's triggered a negative emotion in me. Before I react, I'm going to think, what is that? Where's it come from? Do I need to actually react to that feeling?
yeah,
That's probably the biggest
this
difference.
is very, very good. You said you might not be able to change obviously the situation that you are in, but with time, you could be able to change the way you are with yourself in that situation, if that makes sense. So if you know the pattern, you know what you're going through, you know the narrative. This is why we kind of stressed it at the beginning, you know, look into the pattern. And then the first thought comes up, oh my God, this is like shit. Like, I don't know, John keeps lying to me. And then the lie, you know, it's the stress. So it's like,
Trigger.
is
I
it, or
mean,
can I
true.
choose? Yeah, can I choose to react
Yes.
this way, or do I want to go down the same way that I've been doing it for 10 to 15 years? How is this serving me?
And the key thing with that is that you can't control other people's reactions. We can control your reaction to them, right? You're always going to have those issues, but you can control how you respond.
I think like the main thing is literally, it's like, for example, as you said, like for example, taking ownership of your own reactions, which is it's not your fault. I'm not blaming anyone. It's not nobody's fault. It's just the learning.
Because it comes from the subconscious, right? And you can't control your subconscious reactions, right?
No.
This is the key thing people need to understand is, you know, you're not to blame for these negative emotions. You're not to blame for ending up with a problem with comfort eating, right? Because you're just a victim of circumstance, and all those circumstances just come from all the past traumas you've experienced in your life, right? All those emotional responses. So it is actually really empowering just to know that you are not to blame for how you feel.
Yeah, that is
a great catalyst then to start to make changes.
Yeah, it's not to blame, but you are the one who could change the way
you're in control of how
your life or the outcome of a situation is going to unfold. And this is why we were kind of, I love making these like thought-provoking questions. You know, can you imagine, like, what would it look like for you, this outcome? Can you actually imagine what do you need to do in order for this to happen, to feel even possible, not even happen, just to feel possible? You know, just play with these questions, I think. So, for example, like as an advice, as we said, look for a pattern, look for a situation that, you know, that certain feeling, it comes up. Look for a narrative in your head that is always perpetuating this spiral, and then access that narrative somewhere, not by the end when you are eating, but a little bit before. Try to be aware of this reoccurring situation, reoccurring pattern, and then maybe try to be more aware of the words and the things that them, they're always triggering this.
Just sit in it and process it. Sit in it, feel it, process it. Just ask yourself these questions. What is this emotion I'm feeling? What are the words that come into my mind when I think about this feeling in my body? It's an anxiety, stress, or whatever it is that you're feeling. What words come to mind? And write those down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to send UK or someone, they if they need any sort of help to identify the feelings as well, because obviously we use like frustration, sadness, stress, what is it, anxiety. But there are so much more. So just let me know. Honestly, let me know, and then I can send you some kind of thought-provoking questions where that can actually initiate a flow of other things, emotions coming up and another question coming up. But obviously, I think we both are very much keen to have anyone who needs a little bit of advice. And
put the questions in the group. I mean, I'm always watching the group and the questions. So, post away. If there's anything that you're struggling with, and just drop a post, and we'll respond. And it's great for everybody else in the group as well, just to realize that actually it's safe to talk about mental health. It's safe to say that actually today I feel a bit crap for this reason, right? And it's okay to say that this person triggered me by saying this thing, which I know is not rational, but it's triggered me. It's created a response. And it's okay to again say that and be open with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I think you're definitely right. I definitely want this group to be able to open up to each other, and it takes time and repetition, especially for us guys, to make sure that they feel safe in doing that. And I think with doing that will lead to more questions and people asking, and that's where we can certainly keep delivering. But that's good. I think we're going to start to wrap up now. Just I'm aware of people's times. They're probably going to go away and have a very deep thought whilst they're eating their dinner.
Should I be eating this? Am I emotionally eating this?
I'll be sitting down, mate. I'm not laughing at you. Before we go then, thank you very much for our viewers that have been here. That hour's flown by, and I think there's a lot of things you can take away. At least go away, re-listen to this, write down the questions that they're asking, and start to be more mindful in terms of what you're looking for. I think Andy's just jumped in. He said, my takeaway, I'm not to blame for this ice cream. That's it.
No, everybody loves ice cream. Don't blame yourself out. Eat that ice cream.
Yeah. You're not to blame for it, but think about the emotions which led to that ice cream.
Don't do that. So just as a signpost, if you know you can go first, where can our viewers go away and either contact you or find you on your own channels?
For me, either Facebook, more active on Instagram, but everybody can find my website on bodyfoodfreedom.co.uk, and then they can message me also. I usually just offer free sessions, just for chat. If someone is really struggling with something, I always offer some sort of I would call it like a break. I wouldn't call it a breakthrough session, but I might be able to give you some new perspective. And that's how I operate this. Honestly, I love doing this, so I don't really. My aim is just to have as many people as I possibly can, and I always answer to my message because I'm constantly on social media.
What's your? Can you remind me of your website?
bodyfoodfreedom.co.uk.
Bodyfoodfreedom.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, I'll plug that in so our viewers can look at that. And then for yourself, Chris, where can people find you?
So a good starting point is my website, www.developlink.com. There's 2 blog articles on there about the physiology of subconscious mind and how it works. So there's links to social media. So I'm on Facebook, Develop Link. I'm on Instagram as developlink_UK. I've started to post a lot of TikTok videos recently, just with little snippets of ways to cope with stress, anxiety, mental health, some information about physiology of mental health and the subconscious reactions that we have. So it's a great place. And generally they get posted to Facebook and Instagram as well. So I do free consultations as well. So a lot of people still have never experienced hypnotherapy or don't really understand it. So drop me a message. You can come have a free consultation and go from there.
I mean, it's scary. It's scary to do these things, no?
So get it done. I've done it. Get it done.
I mean, yeah, it's just scary, but honestly, I think none of us is literally biting anyone. I think it's just important to say, like, this is okay to struggle, and it's okay to ask for help. And we do ask for help. I do ask for help as well, as a coach, as a trainer. It's like
First rule of coaching is you can't coach yourself.
Cycle anyway, so it's okay. And if you're not ready, that's fine as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And dealing with your own mental health is like peeling an onion, right? So it's always layers. So you peel the darkest, worst bits from the outside, but there's still layers to go, right? So I still work on myself, and the key place to get to really is that point where you can recognize the responses and feelings in yourself, and you know how to react and respond. You've got the tools to do that, so you don't sit in that negativity very long.
And then, your life could look different.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely can.
And then, I mean, it's hard to get out, but you don't have to be always in the same cycle. And the outcome of any sort of life situation you are in can be different. And that's why we are here, just to help you maybe discover different pathways, and just to help you understand that and believe it, the fact that it could be different. And that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Lovely. I think we'll leave that on that. That was amazing. Again, thank you very much for you two to coming down and sharing an insight. I definitely got a lot of this, and I think our viewers that have come on, but also will look this back, will be good. So just to wrap up, if you are watching this back, please leave a comment saying reply, so we know that you're watching, know that you're listening, so we can then continue to keep providing more of these. We're still looking for topics and suggestions in which you guys would like to see in our next lot of live coaching, which will be in around 4 weeks. And I'll have my Q&A session in around 2 weeks' time. So if you got any of those things, post it into the group, drop us a message, and we'll certainly open this up. But for now, thank you very much for your evening, for you, Nory and Chris, and also for our viewers.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much. Bye.